October 2021. An internal memo circulates through the highest floors of ByteDance headquarters. The subject line is redacted, but the data inside is terrifying. In a quiet suburban home in Tennessee, a 14-year-old girl is found unresponsive. Her phone is still on. The screen is glowing. A loop of a viral challenge plays over and over. She isn't the first. She won't be the last. Behind the colorful filters and the catchy pop songs lies a cold mathematical certainty, a digital weapon designed to bypass the human will. Every second you spend on the app is a battle won in a war you didn't know you were fighting. This isn't just social media. It is the most successful psychological operation in human history, and it was engineered to be exactly this lethal. To understand the collapse, we have to look at the miracle. Meet Zhang Yiming, a software engineer with a vision that seemed almost noble. In 2012, Zhang saw a world drowning in information. He didn't want to build a social network. He wanted to build a brain. He founded ByteDance in a 4-bedroom apartment in Beijing. No one saw him coming. While Silicon Valley was focused on who you knew, Zhang was obsessed with what you craved. In 2017, he made the ultimate power move, a $1 billion acquisition of Musical.ly. He took a niche lip-syncing app for kids and injected it with a proprietary, military-grade recommendation engine. Suddenly, the world had TikTok. It was the ultimate meritocracy. You didn't need followers. You didn't need a budget. You just needed 15 seconds. The growth was unprecedented, faster than Facebook, faster than Instagram. By 2020, Zhang was worth $50 billion. He was the savior of the creator economy. TikTok was the wholesome corner of the internet, a place for dances, recipes, and laughs. But as the valuation climbed toward $150 billion, the data began to whisper a different story. Deep within the code, the algorithm had learned something about us that we hadn't even admitted to ourselves. The machine wasn't just suggesting content anymore, it was starting to dictate behavior. To understand the trap, you have to understand the feedback loop. Most platforms wait for you to tell them what you like. You click, you search, you follow. TikTok doesn't wait. The moment you open the app, the interest engine begins a high-speed interrogation of your subconscious. It tracks how long you linger on a frame, the millisecond you pause, the exact volume of your speakers. By 2021, internal documents reportedly revealed that the algorithm could categorize a user's deepest insecurities within 40 minutes. It doesn't just give you what you want, it gives you what you can't look away from. It is a variable reward system, the same psychological architecture used in the Bellagio or the MGM Grand. Swipe, nothing. Swipe, nothing. Swipe, dopamine hit. The house always wins, and the house was making a killing. By the end of 2021, TikTok's ad revenue jumped to nearly $4 billion, 175% increase in a single year. Silicon Valley was terrified. Mark Zuckerberg reportedly sounded the internal alarms at Meta, realizing his empire was bleeding attention to a ghost. ByteDance was now the world's most valuable startup, worth an estimated $300 billion. The arrogance was palpable. Executives touted the democratization of joy. They moved into massive offices in Culver City and Singapore. They hired thousands of moderators to maintain the clean image. But behind the glass walls, the cracks were spreading. In early 2022, a group of researchers found that the algorithm was aggressively pushing pro-anorexia and self-harm content to accounts registered to 13-year-olds. Sometimes within minutes of the account being created, the wholesome app was feeding the most vulnerable users a steady diet of digital poison. The warnings were sent to the top. The engineers saw the data, but the revenue was too high. The growth was too perfect. They looked at the reports, filed them away, and kept the machine running at full speed. The warnings didn't just come from outside, they were coming from the inside. Internal emails leaked in 2022 showed employees raising red flags about Project Texas, a massive $1.5 billion effort to convince the world that American data was safe. But behind the scenes, the bridge to Beijing was wide open. Whistleblowers claimed that ByteDance staff in China still had a master key to every private video, every direct message, and every contact list. They weren't just watching us, they were cataloging us. But then, the twist. It wasn't just about data, it was about a hidden tax. Reports began to surface of a creator fund that acted more like a black hole. Creators reaching millions of views were reportedly receiving checks for pennies. While ByteDance was pulling in billions, the people providing the fuel for the machine were being starved. But the money had to go somewhere. Investigators began looking into TikTok coins, a digital currency used to tip creators during live streams. The mechanism was brilliant. The app took a massive 50% cut of every single transaction. It was $1 billion money laundering machine hidden in plain sight. Scammers were allegedly using stolen credit cards to buy coins, tipping partner accounts, and washing millions of dollars through the platform. The company reportedly saw it happening. They saw the fraudulent spikes. They didn't stop it. They took their 50% and stayed silent. The arrogance turned into a fever. While the West debated privacy, the app was busy rewriting the chemistry of the teenage brain. Doctors began reporting a surge in TikTok tics, physical spasms in young girls that mimicked Tourette's syndrome. The diagnosis was social media-induced illness. The app wasn't just addictive, it was becoming a contagion. The walls were closing in, the FBI was circling, and then the first subpoena hit the desk. The game was over. The explosion was about to begin. The subpoenas weren't a ripple, they were a tsunami. In a matter of months, the untouchable giant was dragged into the light. State after state filed suits, alleging that ByteDance had intentionally designed a product that was digitally lethal. The documents revealed a God mode internal tool used to track specific individuals, journalists, critics, and activists. The panic inside the Culver City office was total. Deleting logs, scrubbing servers, trying to hide the fingerprints of a decade of psychological warfare. But the real tragedy wasn't in the boardroom. The collapse happened in the psych wards and the classrooms. The golden parachute worked exactly as intended. Jiang Yiming stepped down, his billions secured, disappearing into the shadows of private equity. The executives walked away with 9-figure bonuses, while the lawsuits were settled for fractions of their quarterly revenue. A cost of doing business. The headlines have faded, the outrage has cooled, but look around. The dopamine war didn't end with a peace treaty. It ended with a total surrender. TikTok didn't just win, it rewrote the rules of reality. Now, every platform you touch is a mirror of the same predatory architecture, the same variable reward loops, the same silent harvesting of your subconscious. We are living in the ruins of the attention economy. Our focus is fragmented. Our children's brains are being rewired by an invisible hand. And the laws? They are decades behind the code. The machine is still running. It's in your pocket. It's on your nightstand. It is watching you right now, measuring how long you stayed until the very end. You think you just watched a documentary. The algorithm thinks it just found its next target. How long until you swipe?